Welcome back to the Eye in the Sky. And I know for some of you, you're probably wondering why in God's name would you dedicate the time and resources to do a video on a backup quarterback? Well, let me remind you, we're Viking fans. And if you're a Viking fan, you know this. The football gods have not always been kind to us, but they have been consistent. I mean, the football gods brought us Randall Cunningham back in 1998. They brought us Joshua Dobbs a couple years ago. Oh, and I think my personal favorite was January 5th of 2013, getting on the bus, going to Lambeau Field for the wild card game, only to find out that Joe Webb was going to replace Christian Ponder. I mean, the names, we could go on. You've got Mullins, you've got Mannion, you've got Hall. In fact, the Vikings over the last 6 seasons have trotted out 11 different starters. That's why we do deep dives on backups. And that reason, that's the why. I've given you the why, but how about the how? The Howell. In this case, it's Sam Howell. And I really do believe he will be our backup quarterback going into this year. And my number one reason for that is his experience. Draft pick in the 5th round in 2022, Howell became the starter for the Washington Commanders in 2023. Well, how did he do? Mixed bag. He led the league in passing attempts with 612. He also had 21 touchdowns, 5 more rushing, but he also had 21 interceptions. That also led the NFL. He threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 3,946 to be exact. So the experience is there. We are going to take apart his film. And we're going to say, we like this, we don't like this. These are the things that he has to improve on. This is how he fits this system. And there are a lot of ways maybe he doesn't. But let's give him a fair evaluation. Look at him in the preseason because we do need to get to know our backup quarterback. As we get to know Sam Howell, you're going to see a lot of plays from this Philadelphia game. And I believe this game's kind of a microcosm of his season. I mean, he threw for over 300 yards 5 times, but in this particular game, he threw for 397 yards with 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 114 passer rating. So if there's good to be found, you're going to find it here. Keep an eye on this guy right here. It's the speedy Terry McLaurin up top. And on this play, the Commanders had to have been running some type of RPO, some other looks off of this thing, because as this thing gets forward, you're going to see this corner right here, who they're playing, I think, a form of 8 cloud here, but it's quarters to this side of the field. This cornerback, instead of being in a pedal, decides that he's going to keep his eyes in the backfield, as you can see right here. I mean, look at this corner. He is guessing. He's thinking that there's a throw that's going to be made here, that it's a double slant. Something is coming his way that causes him to squat. And he's wrong. And when you're a corner and you make a mistake, they light up the scoreboard. If you're a linebacker and you miss a tackle, it might move the chains. But at corner, you can't make any mistakes. And in this case, McLaurin just gets right by him. And right here, this is as wide open as you're going to get in the NFL. Look at this. He's behind the cornerback, and he's also beating the safety. So beautiful play design. Caught him guessing. Howell sees it. And more importantly, throws a beautiful pass right to McLaurin's hands. But just keep an eye. Keep this in the back of your mind. You're going to see that this ball was thrown out to here. And when you're doing a study on Howell, you're going to notice that most of his good throws are going to happen somewhere here in the middle of the field. You're not going to see a lot toward the sideline, which in a Kevin O'Connell offense, we attack the sidelines constantly. The next play, I think, highlights exactly what Howell does extremely well. And that's being able to control passing game, 3-step drop, see what's going on before the snap. As you see here, you have a tight end in the game, but it's a 4 wide receiver type set, backs offset, 3 receivers to one side. And before this football snapped, he knows what he's getting. And what he's going to get right here is the Zampese route. And what exactly is the Zampese route? Well, what is that? That it is an inside slant, quick slant by one receiver, and then a little bit deeper, but another slant right behind him. And this is a tough throw to make. And as we watch this play unfold, you'll see Howell get to the top of his drop, and there it is. There's that lane, right? There's a danger here of this guy dropping off and picking that football off. But Howell looks one way, goes the other, and is able to hit this tight end, and he does it in stride. At this point, had this not been a tight end or a wide receiver, look at the green that he has right here. This could be a huge, huge play, but it's a 3-step, quick throw, Zampese type route, controlled passing game that Howell excels at and had a great day against these Philadelphia Eagles with it. So let's look at another touchdown that Howell threw this day. This will be number 2 of 4. Again, kind of the same concept occurring in the same areas of the field. And if you watch my last video on who I think the MVP is going to be, whether it's going to be one of the 2 young tight ends or Sam Howell, this is an exact same route that a young Gavin Bartholomew ran at the University of Pittsburgh. So what do we have here? This is a zone dog, right? So for number 1, protection held up. So basically what you have in front of you is you have all 5 of these defensive linemen are rushing the quarterback. Why do they do that? Well, against a spread offense, you know you're going to get one-on-ones across the board. And if one of these defensive linemen can beat one of the offensive linemen, then you're going to get yourself a sack. But in this case, the protection holds up. So what's going on down the field? Well, because of the blitz, you have only a 3-high type of a safety look, right? You have a corner right here, you have a safety in the middle of the field, and another corner out here who's being occupied by this wide receiver. But what's happening underneath is what's important. This tight end is going to run a post route and try to clear this middle field safety out of the way. You can see it developing right here. This guy has his eyes toward the middle of the field. He has this tight end streaking right across his face. All he has to do is pause for a second, because what's coming next is the nod by the outside receiver. He's out here on a flat defender. Neither one of these 2 donkeys knows who's covering this second route vertically. Straight up the field. Watch this thing open up. Boom. Easy throw, easy catch. Another wide open receiver. But again, the throw occurring in the middle of the field. It's a reoccurring theme. Howell is so good in between the hash marks. I'm beginning to think he's a poor man's Brock Purdy, if you know what I'm saying, the way he can get in here in the middle of the field. Another example of it right here. Tight end going in motion. You have 2 receivers across the board. We've seen this one as well before. The Eagles right here are in 8 cloud. They're playing 8 cloud because, well, 8 cloud, cover 6, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it means you have quarters on one side of the field, which means you have the box over here with 4 receivers, 4 guys on 2, perhaps 3 receivers. And then this is the cover 2 side. You know, defensively, you always have an extra defender. So you want 3 on 2. And if you have 3 receivers on the other side, you want 4 defenders, right? So here you go. Here's the box and cloud, the box and the triangle. If we go back to the beginning, however, the problem that the Eagles have is this guy right here who's given a disguise. He's on the line of scrimmage, but his job is to wall this interior part of the defense and take any crosser from this side that would go to the other, and it doesn't work out so well. So as you can see, the outside linebacker, he starts his drop. He really can't locate anyone behind him, and now we're seeing where this thing is opening up, right? You have 3 defenders all around here and a wide receiver sitting wide open in the middle. But what a great job by Howell again to find the hole in the middle of defense. But once again, it's between the hash marks. Great throw, good catch, moving the chains. Speaking of moving the chains, another example. Now this one kind of doesn't count because it's a 2-minute situation. So the Eagles are going to let anything really underneath be completed, or at least not be too aggressive to go after it. They just don't want to get beat deep right now. but I think it also shows one of the problems that Howell has. Let me explain. So in this case, Eagles they're playing Tampa cover 2, right? They're in Tampa 2 is really a 33 double cloud. That's how Tony Dungy explained it to me, right? You have free safety out here, a free safety out here, and the middle safety, remember it's 3 deep, is really this linebacker who's responsible for anything going up the middle of the field. Now, on this play, the slot receiver knows this. They know so he's going to run at this middle of field defender and get him to bail. And as soon as he bails, he turns around, easy catch in between the underneath linebackers, the overlapping guys. But watch Howell on this play. This ball should be on its way right now. You can see this deep middle defender has already set his feet, and he's getting ready to break on this. This receiver is wide open. However, Howell has problems at times seeing over the bodies that are in front of him. So this ball is delivered a little bit late. It gets there, but there's a lot of traffic around this football. More traffic than there should be, and it's because this football is late. I believe it's because he has a hard time sometimes seeing over that offensive line. So now we're starting to see some of the cracks in his game. A notable play here, not necessarily so much of what happens, but really where it is on the field. This is a situation where they're on their own 1 yard line and there can't be any mistakes. So pretty simple concept, one that we'll see with the Vikings quite a bit. And so keep your eyes basically on these 2 wide receivers as they're getting a cover 2 look. And one of the ways you can really attack cover 2 is with a flat and a 7er out behind it. That means this inside guy is going to take a flat route while the outside receiver is going to head up the field and then at some point get on kind of a 7, a corner. This puts the design is to put this guy in a bind. As a corner, when you're playing cover 2, you always play deep to short because one of these throws is equal to 3 of the short ones. So you always overplay the deep and then rally up and make the tackle on the short route. In this case, Darius Slay, he's not, I'm saying getting lazy, but he's playing this short route. He's playing the position on the field. He thinks, they're very backed up. They're going to get a quick throw. But Howell, staying in bounds, which is a big thing. You step out, it's a safety. Reads it very well, reads the cornerback, able to get this ball up and over, a little bit behind, but this is a route that the Vikings run. So Howell, I think, can execute it well. Another aspect of Howell's game that I like, we can show right here. And it's I formation, 2 backs, you have a Y open. He's motioning himself back into the formation. Now, what Philadelphia is doing here is a zone blitz. They're going to take and blitz this outside linebacker and this inside linebacker and drop one of these guys off on the other side. What makes it so difficult for Howell, however, is the fact that he's going to have his back turned. So as he goes to make this play fake, his back's turned on defense. As soon as he turns his head around, what does he see? He's seeing this linebacker being picked up by the running back, so he knows he does not have a lot of time. He has to make a decision. In this case, he's going to pick on this guy right here, the safety who's squatting. He's squatting because it's a blitz, knows the ball has to come out quickly, doesn't think the tight end has time for a double move, but it's a great job here by the tight end doing just that. The tight end is going to nod himself inside and then work his way outside. Howell knows that, keeps his eyes on him, just drifts ever so little to his left. And I think that's a big thing, that he has the ability to get a feel for the pocket. And as he's waiting to make this throw, waiting for his receiver to get open, he just sneaks himself a little bit to the left, and that buys him enough time right there, that little shuffle, to get his tight end open, and he delivers the football, maybe a little bit behind him, but outside the numbers at least. But he can turn his back on a defense, even though they're blitzing, come up and still make a good read and make a good play. The red zone in this game was very kind to Sam Howell. He did a fantastic job, but it's pre-snap awareness in this case, I think, that wins the day for him. So what is Howell seeing before the snap? He's seeing 4 or 5 defensive linemen, so to speak, 2 linebackers, but it's the umbrella, it's the back end that's very telling. And what tells him what's going on is this guy right here, is this free safety. He is cheated way over to this side of the field. So they have McLaurin kind of knotted up. They know that he's the favorite receiver. So they have a guy rolled up who's going to heavily favor the outside. And then they have a safety right here who's going to cover anything if McLaurin wants to run to the middle of the field. Well, defense is often a compromise, and what they're compromising is what's happening here on the backside of this play, because you have one-on-ones right here across the board, and they have the absolute perfect route for it, which is what? It's, again, the Zampese. You're going to get a quick slant on the underneath guy. The outside receiver will try to widen this DB as much as he possibly can and then work his way underneath. Howell knows that. Howell sees it. As soon as you pause it here, you see the problem, right? This tight end is heading toward the middle of the field, and the defender is what? He's outside. He's playing from a position of weakness. This middle field right here is just wide open, right? Boom. Ball gets thrown. Perfect throw. But again, in between the hash marks. So Howell, in between the hash marks, can be cold-blooded. Here's a play that I've seen the Vikings run something similar, but it's the running back out of the backfield. It's the wheel route. We've seen Justin Jefferson do it. We've seen Jordan Addison do it. This is a great example of when the offense knows what the defense is giving them, there's going to be problems and they're going to be able to pick it apart. Commanders know that they're going to get man-to-man, so they're going to take advantage of it. How are they going to do it? They're going to run these two receivers basically inside to try to interfere with this linebacker right here, who has, in this case, the tough job of covering this running back. This running back is going to the flat. Could have done a better job of selling it, but right here, you know, he's wheeling it, right? He's wheeling it up the field. You've got man-to-man here, man-to-man right next to it. There is nobody up here. So this is one-on-one, running back versus linebacker. Kevin O'Connell makes this matchup all the time that he can. Howell in the backfield is a great view and a great touch throw over the shoulder for a completion to the running back out of the backfield. A huge, huge play that the Vikings run. Another concept that the Vikings love that Howell executes here is the Dagger Concept. And this is a brilliant example of that, where as soon as the ball is snapped, you have 3 receivers up on the top. What you're trying to do basically is run traffic through, get these verticals through the middle of the field to try to open this area up. You're getting a 3-deep type of a coverage here, where this safety is showing too high, but he's going to insert himself somewhere in there. But you have the 4 hook. You're going to end up having 4 hook defenders underneath. As those vertical routes go, what are you seeing? You're seeing this receiver just trying to clear things out. He ends up curling it up, trying to eat up anything underneath. But what opens up is this area right here. This is what JJ runs all the time. And you'll see Howell find that open area in the middle of the field. So this is a perfect route against a perfect coverage. Howell delivers his throw just in time to get underneath the safety. We just saw the dagger route, and we're going to see it right here again. However, the results are completely different. So this is what, again, one of the things about the experience of Howell, throwing 612 passes in a season, being the starter all year round. This is where it pays off. Okay. So again, the same formation that we saw earlier, tight end at the bottom, 3 receivers up top. Tight end's going to stay and he's going to chip. And it's, again, that same concept where you have a couple of receivers clearing this thing out underneath. And what do you have behind it? Well, you have a dig route coming right here. But this time, Howell sees something different. He sees at this stage right here, this guy squatting and this other safety here has a problem. And that's this receiver. He's going to split him right between them. And watching Howell drifting to his left, this dig, again, the dagger is open. He could hit this dagger right here, but he sees a bigger opportunity on the outside, throws that thing up. Nice throw, way outside the hash marks, close to the sideline. One of my favorite throws that he made all year. But again, the same route, same concept, a little bit different coverage, goes to a completely different spot. All right, this play against the Bears is just him being smart. And you wonder all the time why they motion running backs out of the backfield. Why don't they just line up there? Well, the reason being is this. You watch how the DBs adjust. Because as this running back is coming out, if this is zone, this corner will just bump out and this safety will just insert himself right there. But what happens? Nothing. The safety comes all the way out to cover on the running back. As soon as Howell sees this, he knows he has man-to-man coverage down here on the bottom. And when you have man-to-man, what do? Run the double move. Beautiful throw right here. He's already made the decision. Double move, running back on a safety, found the mismatch. Great fade over the shoulder on the sideline. Again, that's what I'm looking for out of Howell, is his ability to attack the sideline, and he does it right here, but he does it by being smart and knowing what the coverage is and how to take advantage of it. Here is Howell again beating man-to-man, and once this plays out, you're going to see the mismatch and see where it's coming from. So in this case, you have man-to-man, meaning each one of these guys, except for this middle safety, they all have, it's cat coverage, right? These two have these two. One of these two linebackers takes the running back, and then you have two over the top. So what's going on here? This tight end is interfering with the DB that's supposed to be covering this wide receiver. So once he sorts his way through it and he get to this point, Howell knows that his receiver has the cornerback beat, and that's the route that he's going to take. The other guy that could possibly help is this guy, a linebacker, who can't possibly keep up. Pocket is good. Howell hangs in there, knows what's happening, and right here is where he starts to throw his football. So the receiver's not even open yet, but because of the positioning of this linebacker and this DB, Howell knows that's going to be open. What a beautiful throw, just outside the numbers. Great touch over the outstretched hands of the linebacker. I think that is a great example of the touch that he can put on the football, but consistently beating man-to-man is something that Howell can do. One of the other talents that Sam Howell has is his ability to scramble. And I remember watching this game down in Miami. We were getting ready to play the Dolphins the next night, and just watching the Bears just not being able to beat the Commanders. This isn't the game they lost at the end on the deep ball, but they just, for whatever reason, Chicago does not like to go to DC. Great example here, though, of how athletic he is in his ability to scramble. He trying to get a swap bootleg, doesn't throw the football, pump fake, moving, breaking tackles, gets himself in the end zone. We know that Kevin O'Connell doesn't like a scrambling quarterback per se, off schedule that is, but Howell can do it. He's a good athlete. He can run. Remember, 5 touchdowns on the ground this year in 2023. Now we're going to start getting into some of the things that I see with Howell that aren't so great, that need fixing. It's one of the oddest things I've seen on film is just the number of throws that he's had, big throws, that were just off the fingertips of the receiver. Now, is that on the quarterback? Is that on the wide receiver? Hard to say, but this is an example of that. What Philadelphia is going to do here is they're going to zero blitz. I mean, they're bringing the house here, right? They got 1, 2, 3. They got all interior, 3 interior, 2 outside. They got this linebacker going. So that means it's going to be one-on-one across the board. And once again, for Philly, the problem is they got guys guessing, right? This cornerback right here assumes because it's a zero blitz, this ball is going to come out quickly, that the quarterback doesn't have time for the receiver to make a double move, which is exactly what happens here. The receiver just nods and goes. Howell doing a great job with pressure in his face, by the way, to hang in there and get rid of this thing as it is being thrown. So that's part of it. That's acceptable reason what happens. But this wide receiver, wide open, kind of over the wrong shoulder, looking to the other side, and the ball falling just off the fingertips. So a huge missed opportunity right there by Howell, who I think still made a pretty decent throw with free defenders in his face. Now, this play's kind of where it starts to cause concern, okay? The Eagles, in this case, they have 5 men on the line of scrimmage. You're going to get right here really a play action. Howell's looking over his shoulder, and his receiver, again, I think McLaurin in this case, has a two-way go. And as McLaurin gets up to this DB, he sees there's no safety back here. This part of the field's wide open. You got some help on the inside, but he's stock blocking him, giving him that look. And again, it's that three-step passing game. It's the quick runs. It's the double moves. That's what this offense was all about. Ours is, of course, a little different, but turns on the Jets. He's open just off the hands. Now, in all fairness, I think this is a ball that McLaurin should have come up with, but it's just amazing the number of balls that were just off the fingertips of receivers in 2023. Now we're kind of getting into the area where Howell makes some mistakes, and that's with interceptions. Now, remember, he threw for 394 yards this day, but this play did not go so well for him. So what exactly happened here? Well, again, it's a bit of a timing route, and you're going to see Philadelphia. We showed 2 plays already where these cornerbacks are guessing. They're guessing the route. And in this case, he's seeing flat route, so he assumes he's going to get a dig underneath. And in this case, he guesses right. Now, for Howell, this is a timing bit. He's already got his arm cocked. He's saying, I'm throwing this football on this line right here. The receiver has to beat the cornerback to this spot. And he doesn't. He gets shouldered up right there. The ball is being delivered right to the safety. So you see him every now and again on some of these timing routes where he literally just kind of gets rid of the football. And is that him? Is that the wide receiver? It's hard to tell, but the timing routes sometimes aren't the best of his throws. And finally, for my last example, another timing route that just could have been disastrous. So as this play breaks out, what are you seeing down here? You got rolled up coverage. So man-to-man, this means this corner is potentially going to body the wide receiver. And for Howell, he takes his snap, and it's a timing thing, right? The back goes out, and he steps and gets ready to throw. But right here, what he doesn't notice is that this cornerback has his receiver bodied up. He hasn't turned his hips. He isn't dropped off in a bail situation. He is right there ready to break on this football. So Howell's already throwing this football, and this DB is in perfect position. This ends up being a ball that should have been intercepted but wasn't. So some of these timing routes, Howell just kind of turns his shoulder and throws them, and they can go the wrong way. I like Howell because of his experience. A guy that throws 612 passes in one season, 21 touchdowns. We can work on the 21 interceptions, making better decisions. He's really good in between the hash marks. He's very, very good when he sees man-to-man coverage. Holds up well against the blitz, can move in the pocket, extend plays. He can scramble. There are a lot of really good things. The question is whether or not he's going to be a fit in the system. That ultimately is going to determine whether or not Howell is indeed number 2, but not if, but when he gets his chance. Remember, if we're Vikings fans, when he gets his chance, he's going to get in there and play well.